Should you say it or should you not? Sometimes some things are better left unsaid, but sometimes it's quite the contrary. Whether we're dealing with a large argument or disagreement, the end of a long-term relationship or the end of a friendship, how do we know when we should bring something up or just keep our mouth shut? In today's video, we're going to deep dive into the regret quotient. This is a concept I came up with years ago because I really wanted to understand and measure what are the things that I really needed to speak of and what are the things that I could let go of. And so let's deep dive into that right now. The biggest part of the regret quotient is how much regret will there be if I don't say anything. Okay, if I don't say anything, if I keep my mouth shut, if I act like it doesn't exist, how long am I going to be holding on to that thought process, that anger, that resentment, that feeling? And how is holding on to that, is that going to help me or is that going to harm me? The other concept of the quotient is really thinking about thoughts and feelings. Do I really need to get this off my chest? Is it really pertinent to this or is it really not? And we can figure that out multiple ways. Is it because we really want to get back at somebody or we want to get them back? Lots of different things, but we have to ultimately speak to ourselves and say, in this concept, we want to eliminate regret and we just want to speak our truth. We also don't want to get any further injury. So if we've been injured in the situation where somebody has hurt our feelings, we feel as though they've manipulated us, they've taken advantage of us, they haven't been honest with us, they've hurt our feelings, whatever that looks like, we don't want to continue to further the injury in the situation. We're looking to get some sort of closure or at least get our truth out there so that we can move forward. One of the biggest concepts of the regret quotient is to be able to put ourselves out there in a proper way where we don't get further injured, but we have to be explicit, very explicit with our words to describe the situation that we want to describe. Because remember, ultimately, when we have that chance to express our feelings in the right way, we don't want to regret later that expression that we had because we feel like we weren't understood or they didn't get us or our words weren't used properly or we weren't explicit enough to explain our feelings. So we want to make sure that we take use of the proper action, being that we really take over the use of what we're saying, what we mean, and getting very deep about that so there's no question of them misunderstanding what we're trying to say. Now, I think it's very interesting when we think about the regret quotient. I'm not just talking about a recent breakup, and this can definitely be used for something like that, but I'm talking about an argument, a major disagreement with maybe a family member or a friend, or something that's really got in the middle or wedged between you and a really good friend. These are things that need to be thought about because some of the things can be left unsaid. Maybe you feel like you've already spoken your truth. Maybe you feel like they just do not get you or they're not emotionally capable of understanding you. But sometimes in order for some of us to move on, we have to express ourselves. But I want to make sure that it's done properly. And so you have to ask yourself a couple of questions. How far am I willing to go to be heard? Okay, how far am I willing to go? How far am I willing to expose my feelings and emotions? And ultimately, how far are you willing to go putting yourself out there and not having any expectation of outcome? I find that this can be a really hard situation because sometimes we want the outcome to obviously be the person sees our truth and they understand what we're trying to explain and they get it and they apologize and everybody's happy and good. Or if it was a breakup, everybody gets back together and the relationship flourishes. Or if it was the end of a friendship because of a disagreement or misunderstanding, that's gone and everybody's happy and healthy again. But ultimately that could be the outcome, but probably most often many people get very defensive if they've made a choice about something, whether it's something they think you did or didn't do, whether they decided to end a relationship and don't want to change their mind, they can be extremely defensive. And so recognize that, is that if you want to get something off your chest, get it off your chest, but make sure that you're doing it because you actually want closure, not because you're wanting something else that you might not really be understanding consciously. So if you're wanting to get back with them or you're wanting them to see your truth, that might not be the right way because you might get further injured or hurt if that's your expectation. Now, the reasons why we do this, the reasons why we really think about the regret quotient is that we don't want to have regret in our life. One thing that I've realized in life that you can't turn around is regret. Once you do something or you choose not to do it and you wish you would have done it or you wish you hadn't done it, it's hard to turn that back around. You can make concessions, you can have conversations, but ultimately the regret things are the things that really hold us back. Those are the things that we ponder a lot. Those are the things that we talk to our coach or therapist a lot. And so if we can eliminate just some of that by speaking our truth, this is definitely something that's important. The second is that closure. Many of us can't just deal with closure on our own. And sometimes in certain cases, if you have been blocked or something like that has happened, you will have to deal with closure on your own. Understanding that that person is not emotionally equipped to deal with it or chooses not to deal with it. And if you're dealing with somebody that's that childlike in nature, that's a problem. And I'm not saying that there's not ever a reason to block somebody, but I'm saying that with most, emotionally balanced adult individuals, there's got to be some way to communicate and get closure together. And I think that that's proper. And even if that person's not completely listening and you're being very explicit, calm, and authentic, at least you're speaking that so that you understand that you've made it very clear to them how you feel. And so you don't have to question yourself later. With many of my clients, the greatest thing about this is that this is like a stepping stone to moving on to a clean slate. So we get to this piece, we're able to have this conversation, we do it in a timely manner. I advise you not to do this immediately after the situation happened. You need to get some distance. You've got to get more of a bird's eye view instead of getting into all your emotions, because there's a part of when things happen where we're all in the emotions of it, all in the feels of it, and that's really hard to not only express ourselves in a clear way, but also to eliminate that anger and resentment piece in our voice. Because the last thing we want to do is have this conversation and not come to the table in our right frame of mind, because then all of a sudden we have more regret, not about necessarily the situation that took place, but how we handled the end of it. Another piece of this is that you get to say your piece, and I like to use the word peace. Peace is very important, and I'm saying P-E-A-C-E. I can say my piece, meaning that I'm going to say it in a peaceful way. I'm going to say that and share this with this other person in a peaceful way because I want them to remember me by this type of reality. I don't want it to be some bombarding anger, resentment, yelling, fuel fear, fuel anger type of conversation, because this could honestly be the last conversation, or it could open the doors to a further deep communication or a further deep friendship or relationship. So ultimately you want to come with the highest of good and at that top level of peace. And so you're going to have to get at least a few days, if not a few weeks after this big thing has happened, to be able to process it and then come to them with that thought process. And it depends. If you're able to really remove yourself a little bit and see it for what it is and see why things may have happened and understand that this isn't the end of the world, you can probably get to a better place of mind and be able to speak your clarity easier and faster. But some of us, it might take a little more time. And last but not least, once we're able to do this, we don't have to play it over and over and over again in our head. It's like once we're able to execute this plan and have this conversation, even if the person buys it, doesn't buy it, agrees or disagrees with it, at least you've said what you need to say in a peaceful way where you've been able to clean your mind, be able to refocus your life. And it's going to take time. The anger, the pain, the sadness is not going to go away immediately, but at least hey, I have come to the plate. I have been, emotionally, smart about my situation. I have been peaceful in my communication. I have shown respect, even though I may agree or disagree with that other person. And ultimately, I have come at my highest good to the situation. And so I'm not going to have regret about something that maybe I feel like I should have said. I hope this video has connected with you and can help you in a situation that you find yourself in, whether you should say something or not say something. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel because it helps us know that we're doing something right and that you're connecting with the content. And if you like this content, please give us a like here. And also in the comment section below, let me know, how do you feel about the regret quotient? Have you thought about regret when it comes to speaking your mind? And have you found yourself speaking your mind, or do you feel like you've held your tongue and not said how you really feel and it's hurt you ultimately? I'd like to hear your thoughts on the concept because I think that it really matters, because I think when we're holding on to regret, we're holding on to that negative energy, we're holding on to things that hold us back, and those are the things that we want to let go in our life. And ultimately, as you know, if you've listened or watched anything that I've probably talked about, you know that I'm big into this live your true life thing. So ultimately, don't forget to live your true life.